Join our incredible moms who have mastered the art of balancing motherhood in today's episode of We Time Convo.
My name is Debbie.
This is Liza.
Moms sharing inspiring stories, practical tips, and a few hilarious anecdotes. And it all begins now.
Thank you for listening. Another episode of We Time Convo. Before I start, I wanted to actually let you guys know that I did a couple of presentations for our English classes last week. Our English teacher, shout out to Mr. and Mrs. Nakamura. Their classes are actually recording podcasts as, one of their assignments.
Oh, how exciting.
Yeah, so he had asked me to go on and present in his classroom. Mm-hmm. And I'll be presenting in his wife's classroom. They're a married couple, and they teach English at where I work. Yeah, it was great. I was really, really nervous. I actually had to get some information from Irene because I'm I literally, they wanted to know everything, the process and how it began. And I was me and Debbie, we just show up. Yeah. Irene is the heart of it. She,
yes.
Does everything. So, which I basically, had told them. And it was great. The kids were so engaged. They were very excited. He actually even played the intro, and he had it set up to kind of like interview style. He had two couches, next to each other, and he asked me questions. So it was a lot of fun. Yeah. And hopefully maybe we'll gain some,
followers,
but they were really just wow.
Yes.
She has a podcast. And at first I was I don't know if I want them to know my life, but.
Well, because they can jump on and listen, right? So, obviously we are open and honest in regards to our perspective. So that's a little, personal.
Yeah, it was very, very exciting. So, thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Nakamura, for having me on board. And yeah, it was great. So today we have a really different subject today. So it's about the big rig crisis. So truck drivers. Irene, our producer, had the idea of us kind of reading this article and talking about it because, even though this is a parenting podcast, we do have a lot of parents that are truck drivers and have time to listen to podcasts. So the article that Irene shared and I read last night is called The Big Rig Crisis, How We Fail Our Truckers. That's on Reader's Digest by Derek Burnett. And this was actually published October 24th, 2023. So I did read this last night. And I do have a lot of respect for our truck drivers.
So Liza, tell me a little bit about the article. What was the gist of the article?
So truckers, we rely on, a lot of big companies rely on truck drivers to move product, of course, from one place to the other. Mm-hmm. UPS, right? UPS, Walmart, they rely on us heavily. What I did not realize was that these truckers, they don't get paid a set salary every month. They get paid per mile that they drive.
So the longer you drive,
so
the more money you make.
Basically have to keep moving. And I remember, going on 101, you always see all these truck drivers. They're always just in the fast lane. And I'm what the hell? Where do you need to be? And I read it. I'm they need to make money. That's how they make money, is drive.
So I can tell you, I just traveled to Tahoe, from Tahoe. There's a lot of truck drivers on that road. I can imagine, obviously, because I think a lot of times we think about how it gets to us, probably through plane, and then we see the UPS or FedEx vans coming, but we don't really think about those big, massive trucks anymore. Because a lot of times they travel during kind of the non-peak commuter hours, right? So they as you said, they're traveling at all hours of the day. Typically I see them, obviously, when I travel late at night. They move a ton of stuff.
Yeah, which is, like I said, 72% of America's freight. And I read that there's actually a shortage. We need 80,000 truckers. It's stable income. They provide healthcare and retirement. So UPS and Walmart salaries are up to six figures
to drive.
Yeah.
So are they hired? So they hire their own truckers.
Yes.
And they basically move product from one place, to, probably from their distribution centers over to the various stores that they have.
But in order to make that money, they have to be driving 70 hours per week.
Oh my God. That's
which is a lot because again, they get paid per mileage. And
so basically 10 hours a day.
Yeah. And the reason why we're looking for so many, truck drivers is nobody wants to do that job. Like that, it takes you away from your family. If you're driving 70 hours a week, you're always traveling, right? And I did read somewhere that there's a lack of parking and clean rest areas for truckers and clean bathrooms.
So it's not something sexy.
It's not. And it's worse for female drivers, which make up only 6 to 8% of all the truck drivers.
But as you mentioned, they do make six figures.
Yeah. If you can drive 70 hours a week.
Well, you have to really like driving.
Yeah.
Well, and those big rigs are not nothing to play with. You have to obviously have a special license for that.
Yeah.
Right. And can you imagine just like the wear and tear on your body itself, right?
Yeah. They did mention that there's just an increase in obesity, heart problems, because you're literally sitting there for 70 hours a week. So, and yeah, I think it's, I think one female said on the article that at the truck stops, there's no feminine products. There's no hair ties, anything for women, which makes it really hard for them to find anything. And like, of course, it's a dirty bathroom. You can't take a shower. Like, yeah, as a woman, I could see that it's hard. Also, I want to say the safety of it, right? Because and the article mentions that there's also a whole new other world of truckers, which includes prostitution and sex trafficking, which makes it very scary for females or males too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I can see that, because you kind of think about trucking like, oh, you get to see like America and you get to see all these like different places, and that's kind of like some part of it, right? But not necessarily the.
But then if you're driving 70 hours a week, maybe the times that you're not driving, you just want to rest and sleep.
Yes, that's true.
Or talk to your family.
Well, I'm thinking, would you want to do this? Like for me, it sounds like, would I want to do this when I'm older or younger? Right? Like what time of my life would I want to do this? In a way, I'm thinking, well, maybe if I'm older, I would like to do this, because then you don't necessarily have your little kids anymore. You get the luxury of seeing different places. But yeah, no, that's interesting.
But your body is not you don't have a body of like a 20-year-old
True.
At that point. Like your back will probably hurt more. Like I'm just thinking about my sciatica flaring up just sitting there. I think if you're younger and you're single and don't have kids, why not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in the article, it says that there is a shortage. And what is the shortage again? What's that number?
80,000 truck drivers
are needed. They do pay for these services at a six-figure mark, but there's obviously these things that you should consider.
Right.
Interesting. I would love to get a truck driver's perspective on this.
We should. Yeah. Any truck drivers out there and you want to, get on the podcast, hit us up. But also 21% of drivers said they've been victims of a crime.
Oh,
during their time trucking.
And what type of crimes are? Is like robbery?
They're probably robbery. I can't imagine other things. But I'm assuming robbery, maybe rape.
Oof.
If you're a female.
Oh my God, that's
you're
scary.
Just sleeping in your truck.
Yeah.
And they're being monitored now too, remotely.
Yeah, they have cameras inside the actual trucks now, so your boss is watching you. Yeah.
I don't know about this.
Yeah. And it's so hard to also build more truck stops and rest stops, to make it more accessible and cleaner for truck drivers, because nobody wants that in their neighborhoods.
Yes.
So yeah, that's what I also read in the art. It's hard to find a place because nobody wants that there. Nobody wants a bunch of trucks parked there. Just people sleeping in their cars. It's probably unsafe.
So what's the alternative? Like as we're experiencing a shortage, what's that alternative for these?
The self-driving trucks.
But just to our products, are like movement of products. Then if you're having a shortage, I would imagine that would affect pricing of our products, right? Because then now it becomes more expensive to get the products to us, to the consumers.
It's just so crazy that this day and age, like we still have to drive products from one place to the other, Can they ever fly them over? I don't know, cargo them over?
I think, didn't we talk about one article where they were now delivering, I don't know if we talked about it, but I saw it on the news where they were actually starting to deliver packages via drone.
That makes sense.
Right? This is interesting because 40,000, that's quite
80,000.
No, 80,000. Sorry. 80,000. That seems very
big shortage.
Yeah.
Yeah, and going back to it not being healthy because you're sitting in a car driving 70 hours, the food option. All you get are fast food. At these stops, it's McDonald's, Taco Bell, all that. Like, there's no healthy options.
That's true.
And you can't really just bring your own food with you because where are you going to store it?
Yeah.
Where are you going to eat it?
And it's not like you want to like hole yourself up at some hotel or motel because then that costs money, right? You're just depleting what you're trying to make. Okay, so driving is stressful work requiring prolonged vigilance and concentration. And the type of trucking where the labor crisis is most strongly felt, long haul, can be lonely, especially for people with families. So Mike Murphy said, "You miss everything. Trucking becomes your life. After 25 years, you realize, wow, I've got nieces and nephews graduating from college and I didn't get to watch them grow." Through the years, Andrew, MD, has seen a lot of young people entering the industry believing that the time constraints and separation from their families wouldn't be that bad. After a while, reality sets in, he says, and people look for work closer to home. Mike Murphy figures he has another 10 years of driving ahead of him before he can retire. He got into the industry back in the 90s when he realized his small town simply wasn't a big enough market to support the dog grooming business he'd opened. In the end, he says, trucking has been a good job. It's allowed me to buy a house and a car and to live in a rural community, perks he might otherwise not have enjoyed. He estimates he'd have had to take a 50% pay cut if he had taken work around Wandington. But you give up a lot, he says. I'm kind of looking forward to not having to do it anymore. So good and bad,
Yeah,
huh?
good and bad.
Good and bad.
I mean, I don't think it's a completely different job, but it's kind of like if you have like a husband in the military, right? Just always come and go for long periods of time and just sending you money.
Yes.
And so it's a tough job for sure.
Yes. And, he recognizes it's given him a lot, but it also took him a lot.
So is were they considered frontline workers during the pandemic?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
Because they brought in
necessities.
Necessities. Yeah. Well, yeah, even think about it, right? Because I think we would still like DoorDash, Ubering, they still need to get to the store.
Yeah, the stores were still open.
Yes.
Yeah. So we still needed food to eat.
Well, definitely another perspective that you don't really think about in our everyday life if you don't know anybody in the trucking business, right? So it's really interesting to hear because you don't think about it.
Although it's actually everywhere.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All the time.
I bet, haven't you heard when you talk about something or you recognize something and then going forward, you realize you see it much more often.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to see truck drivers.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you're on 101 and you see truck drivers and you get pissed that they're in the fast lane, give them some slack. They're just trying to make their money per mile, just go around them, say hello. And it's not an easy job.
You know what? I remember as a kid when we would do road
when you go like
trips,
this to
and
do
you
the
would
honk.
do it like this and they would do it.
Yeah.
You'd be in the car and you would do the motion for them to honk it's not their horn, is it their horn?
Yeah, because they pull it.
Pull
it. Yep, it is a horn.
It's a horn?
Yeah.
And so as a kid, you would do that on your road trip. And if the truck driver saw you, he would pull it.
Yeah.
And that would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think I've ever taught Vanessa to do that.
Oh, she's probably like, what is that? Yeah. I remember doing that because we were always on road trips.
Yes.
But yeah.
I remember. I don't think I've ever taught Vanessa to do that. I need to ask her.
Yeah. Well, shout out to our truck drivers. They're the reason why we have what we have at the stores. We have what we need. Everything, our essentials. They're the reason why it's there.
Thank you truck drivers out there.
Yeah, thanks for your valuable service. And hey, if you're looking for a job and want to make a lot of money, apply to be a truck driver. 80,000 people, guys. Come on.
Check it out.
Yeah, thanks for bringing this article to us, Irene. It's very interesting. All right, well, that concludes our episode. Thank you again for listening. Don't forget to give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. It will help us greatly. And we'll see you next time. Bye.